Coming up, we talk about bridging the gap between traditional and modern medicine practices. The 2022 State of Native Youth Report is out. We learn more about it. Plus, it's the holiday season. We will get a roundup of Native-owned businesses to shop from. I am Aaliyah Chavez. Join us for those interviews, plus headlines from the ICT Newscast.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.
The Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication at Arizona State University is honored to be a supporter of Indian Country Today. Working with award-winning professors, Cronkite students learn news reporting, social media, shooting and editing videos, and producing content for communications industries. Cronkite's 15 professional programs give students the opportunity to cover critical issues throughout the U.S. and beyond. Learn more at cronkite.asu.edu.
This is the ICT Newscast with Aaliyah Chavez.
Amadawa Hopa, thank you for joining us. We start our newscast today with the unveiling of some history-making dollar bills that you may soon find. Take a look. A few days after Joe Biden became the president, Secretary Janet Yellen was confirmed to lead the Treasury Department. Despite that being nearly a year ago, dollar bills have still been printed with the signature of the former Treasury Secretary on them. That's because the Treasury Secretary isn't allowed to have their autograph on U.S. currency until a treasurer is appointed. In September 2022, Lynn Malerba stepped up to the plate. This Mohegan lifetime chief was selected for the job and became the first Native American to hold the position. At this facility in Fort Worth, Texas, the two women stood next to one another looking at the first sheets of bills printed. It marked the first time the signatures of two women are on U.S. currency. If you look in the bottom left corner, you see the signature Lynn Roberge Malerba, Treasurer of the United States. In the right-hand corner, you see Janet L. Yellen, Secretary of the Treasury.
But really, this is not about me or Treasurer Malerba. To me, these notes represent the hard, ongoing work of the Treasury Department to strengthen the economy, advance our economic standing around the world, and also a reminder of the contributions of women who have worked at Treasury and in the economics profession.
The duo took a tour of the facility that prints money and even used a magnifying glass to take a closer look. The first bills in denominations of $1 and $5 will officially enter circulation in early 2023. In California, tribal leaders are celebrating what's being called the largest river restoration project in American history. Last week, several tribal leaders and government officials gathered at the Iron Gate Fish Hatchery. That's because the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission has approved a plan to remove 4 hydroelectric dams in California and Oregon, a feat that came after years of negotiations. Stakeholders say closing these dams will help restore salmon habitat, improve water quality, and mitigate the effects of drought. The Yurok, Karuk, Klamath, and Hoopa Valley tribes celebrated the move, saying future generations will now have the opportunity to learn to care for the area. Secretary Deb Haaland was also at the event.
It really is perseverance against sometimes really insurmountable odds when we look at all the eras of federal Indian policy in this country. One of which were dams across the entire country without ever once consulting with tribes about what it meant to their lives or their cultures.
Holland also announced that 4 projects will receive $5.8 million for the efforts. Removals are set to begin as early as next summer and are planned to conclude in 2024. In Bolivia, a parade celebrating the spirit of the holidays has taken over the streets of La Paz. The city center of Bolivia's capital came to a standstill last weekend to make way for the annual Christmas parade. Organized by some 150 Bolivian organizations, the parade featured 60 floats. From dancers to the Grinch, the people who attended the event watched the show. One parade goer says their thoughts are still on the pandemic.
It's unavoidable living under the threat of COVID-19. You get infected and it's almost expected. We are still in COVID's time, but we have got used to living with it.
Father Christmas and his reindeer were the most cheered, while the Grinch turned out to be the least popular character in the parade. Now to the Big Island of Hawaii, where the largest volcano on Earth has finally reduced its lava levels. Scientists say as of December 11th, Mauna Loa's flow has paused and is showing behavior the eruption could soon stop. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, lava is no longer coming from the main flow front, leaving it basically drained. The volcano first started erupting for the first time in nearly 40 years on November 27th. Since it started, it is not believed to have damaged any structures or harmed any people. And those are the headlines for the ICT Newscast. Many modern-day practices in medicine lack the Indigenous perspective. Well, the Native American Health Center in Sacramento is doing something to fix that. It is implementing traditional ways in the hospital. The center recently hired Nathan Blacksmith as its first Chief Traditional Health Officer. Hi there, Nathan.
Hello.
So tell us about your new role as Chief Traditional Health Officer and what it means for the center.
So first of all, the Sacramento Native American Health Center is a nonprofit 501c3 federally qualified health center currently located in Midtown Sacramento with a second location opening in South Sacramento in early 2023. SNAC's vision is a vibrant community built upon a strong foundation of cultures, traditions, where healthy lifestyles include the balance of mind, body, and spirit, the prayer and legacy of our ancestors. So it's really, continuing that work. And it's really important because, our region is very unique in its build. The Sacramento area was a gathering place for many local tribes who lived throughout the Central Valley and foothills for generations. These tribes included the Nisnani people, the Southern Maidu people, Northern Valley Plains Miwok people to the west of the Sacramento, the Patwin Wintun people, and our neighboring Wilton Rancheria. In addition to these local tribes here in Sacramento, we have Indian people from across the country that were relocated here as urban Indians. All these people living within our service area demonstrated not only the need for a position like the Chief Traditional Health Officer, but also the need for culturally appropriate treatment options for our community. Our alternative services incorporate cultural healing components that can be used to enhance our clinical services and connect knowledge to the spirit of wellness and healing, empowering our relatives to take a hands-on approach to their healing and well-being. And really, that's the role of the Chief Traditional Health Officer, is to facilitate something like that, the development of a program. I was always taught by my relatives that, our ancestors left us a roadmap for towards health and wellness, and it's embedded in our family's culture and ceremonies. So carrying this work forward is super meaningful and an honor.
Nathan, can you give us an example of what that looks like for you to use these traditional healing ways with clinical practice, as you just said?
Sure. So one of the programs that we have right now is run by our certified medical herbalist, Sage Lapena. She leads the Healing Ways program, which brings patients and their families into the healing process and recognizing the unique relationship between community and our environment. This includes offering traditional medicines in a clinical setting as part of the patient care plan with SNAC. Also, Sage offers patients herbalism classes herbal plant walks, community meals, and elder youth workshops, effectively connecting our urban Indian population to their culture and traditional medicines right here in Sacramento.
Can you give us some examples of what the reaction has been of patients who maybe want this kind of care or didn't know that this kind of care could exist?
Sure. We get a lot of attention for this program and the work that Sage does here with the herbalism program in particular. A lot of the families are really relieved when they have the additional options for care. We also provide the Western care, but in addition to, we'll always consult with our certified medical herbalist on, what are the potential alternative treatment options that are available and how do we connect folks? And the response, like I said, has been awesome. We've had many families, individuals and families join and really partake as a family together. So the healing doesn't happen on an individual level, rather a collective level.
Can you provide some context for other health centers, other tribal nations who might be doing this kind of work, or maybe set the landscape in terms of how unique this is?
Sure. So a couple of things make my role here with SNAC unique in the fact that I grew up here. I grew up, just outside of Sacramento, and I've worked in this community for some time. So I'm somewhat familiar with, both the urban population needs and kind of, events and activities, as well as, understanding and trying to learn as much as I can from our local relatives. So, those combinations, in addition to, my own, qualifications, make this a very unique opportunity for myself and the health center. And so I was really excited that we were able to connect and make this happen.
Nathan, as you move forward in this role, what are some ways that you hope that you could expand services or expand the program?
Sure. So I mentioned in my introduction our new location. It'll offer 35,000 square feet of clinic space with a dedicated youth and family programming area. That dedicated space includes a cooking kitchen where we plan to introduce food as medicine programming and offer traditional and contemporary nourishment classes. In addition, the new location has an approximately 1.5 acre lot that will house an elders gathering area, like a patio, medicine and food gathering area or gardening area, a sweat lodge and ceremonial fire space, a soccer field, 2 basketball courts where we hope to reintroduce American Indian sports leagues and encourage more physical activity amongst our relatives. That was always a big thing growing up, is having these Indian-only sports leagues, and we all come together and compete and have a good time. So, looking forward to diversifying our options of how to live healthy and how to get healthy.
That sounds like some major fun there. Nathan Blacksmith from the Native American Health Center in Sacramento, thank you for telling us about your new role as the Chief Traditional Health Officer.
Thank you for having me.
The Center for Native American Youth at the Aspen Institute is out with its annual report. This year, it's being called Center Us, the State of Native Youth. Cheyenne Brady is the program manager of the organization and joins us now virtually. Hello to you, Cheyenne.
Hi, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. For our viewers who are learning about this report for the first time, describe what it is at a high level.
Yeah, at a high level, the State of Native Youth report this year essentially unpacks the realities and the experiences that Indigenous people have faced throughout history and continue to face today. More importantly, it uplifts the Native youth voice in how they're addressing these issues or combating these realities. It shares their experiences. And that's what we strive to do here at CNAY, is uplift Native youth voice, their concerns, and their solutions.
Let's actually dive into what the report says. I understand that climate change was a big part of this year's report.
Yeah, so now more than ever, our Indigenous youth, our Native youth, they are building diverse intergenerational movements to protect and care for Mother Earth. They are working to protect our lands, our waterways, our sacred sites, while also uplifting their traditional cultural ecological knowledge. And so that's kind of the highlight on climate change within our report.
Did boarding schools happen to come up in this year's report?
Yes, ma'am. Boarding schools are talked about in regards to transforming systems. So we talk about the systems that have been historically utilized to suppress our people. But in transforming them, how amazing and resilient our people are to transform these systems. So now boarding schools have been transformed to what they are today. They're incorporating traditional teachings. They are taking in our Native youth. They are engulfed with traditional knowledge within the curriculum. So boarding schools have been, it's providing that historical context, but it's also noting how they have been transformed by our people, now being led by us and working for the betterment of our Native youth.
I want to actually talk about technology because we know that young people are just geniuses when it comes to all things technology. But we also know, of course, that in a lot of tribal communities, broadband is a big issue. So maybe talk about that.
Yeah, that you're exactly right. And that's something that we have seen throughout this entire pandemic. The pandemic has highlighted the technological issues that have happened, or the technological gaps that can be happening on our reservations in our communities. And so that talks about how those needs are urgent within our communities to ensure the success of our youth. But it also talks about how technology has been utilized as a platform for advocacy with our Native youth. So they are using social media, they are using all of their tools and gadgets to get the word out about things that are important to them. So they are advocating for better policy. They're advocating for the protection of our people, our women, our girls, our men. Social media and technology has been a tool that our Native youth have utilized to enhance our people and enhance our communities.
Cheyenne, when I was reading this report, something that stood out to me from the very beginning was that there was a truth warning in this report. Maybe tell us what that is.
The truth warning, it's a lot. Like it's kind of a trigger warning if you get triggered, but it's honestly it's a notion of respect to understand, like in order to get through and get to where we want to go and build that brighter future, we must walk through the truths. And sometimes those truths are hard to read. So it's hard to read that how our people have been impacted. It's hard to read sometimes about the history of Indigenous people. But in order to get to that reconciliation or to progress forward, we must all walk through that truth together. We're here on this earth together. We're now in this country together. We have to recognize the truths of the Indigenous population to build a better future together.
Cheyenne, when you're out and about interacting and speaking with Native youth, what do they tell you about, why a report like this is important and needed?
Oh, a report like this is important and needed because we have to listen to our youth. Within our culture, we recognize our tribal elders and then we recognize our children as the most sacred. But oftentimes, in the hustle and bustle of today, the older adults are just moving forward and they're making decisions that we might think are better for the youth without actually listening to the youth and saying, what do you need? How do you feel about this? What does your population think about this? And so recognizing the need to just listen to the youth, to hear their concerns and to truly uplift and make change like with their ideas is something that we all have to do a little bit better job of incorporating, in my opinion. There's often a notion that our, Native youth are leaders of tomorrow, but we're trying to flip that on its head and note that they are an uplift, that they're leaders of today. They know what they want. They know how to address some of the issues that we face. They're creating solutions on their own. they know how to do it. And so we need to provide them the agency to allow them to lead and to let them lead, give them that space, give them those seats at the table, bring them in and help them be a part of the solutions.
Well, Cheyenne, Brady from the Center for Native American Youth, thank you for telling us about this year's State of Native Youth Report.
Thank you.
The holidays are just around the corner, and if you're still wondering what to get people, we have you covered. ICT Digital recently filed a story called A Virtual Holiday Market. Managing editor Dalton Walker joins us now with more. Hi there, Dalton.
Bonjour, Leah. Thank you for having me.
Oh my goodness, let's just start off here because I have to say that the ornaments in your beard are awesome. I love that energy today.
I love the festive season. I'm here for it all.
So ICT recently published a gift guide that serves as a virtual marketplace for Indigenous-owned businesses. Tell us about that.
Well, first of all, as I mentioned, the holiday season is my favorite season, especially as I get older. This coming from a northern Minnesota kid now living in sunny Phoenix. This time of year is known for whether that is receiving or giving. ICT likes to compile a list of Indigenous businesses to highlight to our readers as a small gesture during the holiday season. ICT's political correspondent, Polly Deneclaw, put her take on this year's version, and she did a tremendous job. We have our list broken down into categories, and hopefully there is something for everyone on it. Unfortunately, we couldn't include every Native business, but we have plenty of options.
Let's actually get into some of those options. Maybe tell us about some of the items that are in the guide.
Well, the way I like to look at it is thoughtful gifts tend to mean a little more to loved ones. And what better way than to find something Native made, created, that isn't as well known as some gifts, but just as nice or even better. On the other end, buyers are supporting a small business that is doing amazing work. Also, I want to remind people, just be sure to check out the list soon and order, because you have to factor in you want to get stuff delivered before the holidays.
Dalton, when you were parsing through the list yourself, was there any particular business that stood out to you?
Well, we have plenty that I haven't heard before, but I'm having fun learning more about each as I click through. One that stands out, at least to me, is Reclaimed Designs by some Navajo and Oneida creatives. A few years back, I received this awesome sweater they created that features their take on an iconic image many of us know of a Native man facing a military soldier taken at the Oka crisis 30 or so years ago that affected our Mohawk relatives north of the Medicine Line. Reclaimed Designs image features a stormtrooper from Star Wars in place of the soldier. It's a popular sweater because when I'm around other Native people or at events, man, I often get people coming up to me asking where I got it. And unfortunately, I always forget. But now Reclaimed Designs is ingrained in my head, so hopefully I can give them a little more shout outs.
You know, Dalton, what stands out to me is that pre-pandemic, it felt a little rare to see Native-owned businesses operating in spaces online where, you know, you could go onto a website and then put your address in and it can be shipped to your house. That seems really interesting to me now because it seems like a lot of Native-owned businesses really have websites.
Yeah, it's super convenient, especially for people who are either busy or got things going on throughout the day with work and all these other priorities. They can sneak off to the computer or even to our list and click through and filter out what they need. And a couple clicks here or there, they got something coming in the mail later that week. I love it myself, but at the same time, it's could be a negative because it's so easy to get stuff. But I like when people get their items and they can see the joy that they have in their face.
Absolutely. Well, Dalton, we should also mention here that aside from buying things online, there are a lot of events in local communities like bazaars and holiday markets.
Oh, yeah, that's another thing I want to remind people. This is a handy guide, but I want to recommend that we have so many Native creatives all over, and some might be closer to you than you think. Keep an eye out for those local Native markets.
Absolutely. And Dalton, I actually had the opportunity to go to a market this weekend, and it was wonderful to see you and your family there. I know I got some good stuff, so I'm really excited for the next one.
Yeah, there's plenty out there. I'm having a good time looking through because there's so many cool creatives.
Well, Dalton Walker, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And that's a slice of our Indigenous world. For all the latest, visit ictnews.org. From all of us in the newsroom, stay safe, my relatives.
Sometimes you got to take a stand just because you know you can. Oh, you got to run, you got to run.
The Sand Creek Massacre, the betrayal that changed Cheyenne and Arapaho people forever, focuses on tribal accounts of Colorado's deadliest day. Exhibition details at historycoloradocenter.org.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.